According to God, the white man is the devil. See, I've been in here for a little minute. You know what I'm saying? And I see niggas, they like to talk a lot. They like to claim leadership. They like to claim this and that. You know what I'm saying? They like to be above what they really is and have authority. But they don't really need that authority. They don't really know what to do with that leadership. You understand? You hold hands with this boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe, nigga. Gotta stand up to serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. Yeah. See, everybody ain't with all that peace talk. Everybody ain't with all that bygone be. Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to prophets. My nigga serious. Boy, when they hit us with dope and kill us with crack, where the fuck with your leaders? I'm curious. He cashed out on your blood, traded you in and bought a new biz. Ask you the prophets, I tell you the scheme. If you don't wake up, you gon' die in your dreams. I say you won't tell you no more. I swear these crackers try to kill us slow. Just spoke to a nigga and fed it up for parole because of the COVID. It feel like the host in this world that don't go together. Nowhere is gold in the ghetto. I'm in the city blazing with my niggas. Just told the devil the score never settled. Yeah, see the prophets. I'm tired of these niggas keep talking about, you know, you respect my religion, I respect your religion. Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you the prophets. You know, like we all come together. You know what I'm saying? They say God so loved the world. God so loved the world, and no, boy, your ass need to stop and ask you the prophets. Don't give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe, nigga. Gotta stand up to serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. Yeah. Hey, gentlemen, y'all, we don't pray on our knees, nigga. Gotta stand up. You know what I'm saying? Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to wrong with step. I'm solid for show. To the fake niggas, stay silent. I got it. Let's go. Let's go. I ain't taking no loss. Ain't no token when we got the flow. Ain't no peace, just play with your own. I'ma be low to the right arm. Tell them we can't keep it slave. And I can never let bygone be bygone. Got your baby mother on high. Got your baby pass through the fire. Ask you the prophets. That baby so below to the Lord. How dare you abort it? Devil will fail you, bitch. I can afford it. I prepare slaughter. You bring me my water. Push your leaders weak. Let them lies slip through their teeth. Their ass need to stop and ask you the prophets.
That's just the reality, Christians. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings. I know your pastor lied to you every Sunday for 30 years, but that's what the church is for, lying. That's why they exist, to lie the money out of your pockets.
Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe, nigga. Gotta stand up to serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. Gotta stand up to serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga.
Hey, Shalom, Israel. Y'all Bashim Yashab, rock a thumb to the brothers. Y'all Shamala thumb Bashim Yashab to the sisters. I'm Police Officer Parak, holding down the Sabbath service for the ISUPK coming out of Arizona. If you look at the very bottom of the screen, you can see our class location, which is 12416 North 28th Drive. We're in suite number 4. All right. Right off of the corner. If you're in the Phoenix area, we're right off the corner of 28th Drive and Cactus. All right. Class schedule is as follows. It's every Tuesday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. And then, of course, the Sabbath service, which is today, every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. All right. So today, what we'll be going over is regeneration. All right. We're going to be talking about regeneration in the Bible. What we're going to do today is we're going to answer the age-old question, which is what happens after you die. All right. That is the age-old question because nobody knows. Right? Nobody in the world knows what happens after you die. There's plenty of theories. There's plenty of theories. Some, people have come up with the theory that when you die, you go to heaven, and that's where you stay, or you go to hell if you've been an evil person. Some people have come up with the theory that when you die, it's nothing but black. You understand? And you just see black for the rest of your life, or you die and you just cease to exist forever. But we're going to go into the Bible and we're going to get the answer to that question, what happens after you die? Because the truth about what happens after you die, I'm going to give you the spoiler for the entire class. The truth about what happens after you die is you get judged and you come back. and you come back and live your life out, either as your reward for your diligence in serving God, or your reward for your diligence in not serving God, in sin. You understand? You'll come back, your spirit will regenerate into this earth, and you will be either punished or you'll be rewarded, right? But of course, we're going to give plenty precepts in this class. Honestly, it's so many precepts for this because the Bible talks about it so much, and has had the answer for what happens after you die right in front of your face. For all of the Christians that have read the Bible, for all of the people that have read the Bible for over 2,000 years, it's been right in front of your face. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go into the Bible and we're going to point out to you what's been right in front of your face on the paper for 2,000 years. All right. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start. Begin with the prayers. All right. So, Imagine, which means to stand, Panyak Wadam, which means to turn and face the east. We're going to begin with the prayers. Beginning with the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwaka, Taba'ah, Watazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Kal Yawam, Wasalakanawa, Kal Watnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kal Watinawa, Wala'ah, Tabayanawa, Banasai 1, Abal, Hawashanawa, Mayan, Raikaya, Laka, Amalakwa, Wa'ala, Wathaparath, Laiwalamyum, Aman. In English, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Yahweh, thy kingdom come, that will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. The power, in the Hebrew, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Babakusha, Nathan Nawahaka, Hakat Larapa'ah, Kal Maka'ala, Wakal Madawa, Hakat Lahato, Slaki, Hakat Latahar, Hamatazariah, Hakat Lakwayam, Hamathium, Hakat Arakawa, Atama'ala, Lagar Shan, Ba'ashem Yahushai, the Wadaman. The Hakat, with the power in the English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, please give us the power to heal all manner of sickness, and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the lepers, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out. In the name of Yahushai. Thank you, so be it. Psalms 121 in the Hebrew. Asha'ah, Ayanya, Ahaharyam, Ma'ayan, Yaba'ah, Isaiah, Ma'aim, Yahweh, Aisha, Shamayam, Warataza, Ayathan, Lamawat, Regalka, Ayanawam, Shamarka, Hana, La'ah, Yanawam, Wala'ah, Yayashan, Shamar, Yasha'alam, Yahweh, Shamarka, Yahweh, Tazalka, Al-Yad, Yaminka, Yawamam, Hashamash, La'ah, Yakaka, Wayarak, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamarka, Makal Rad, Yashamar, Athnapashka, Yahweh, Yashamar, Taza'athka, Wabah, Wa'aka, Ma'aitha, Wa'iwalam. In the English, Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Yasha'Allah shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out, and thy coming in, from this time forth, and even forevermore. You want to throw some more Frank on there? Or is it, yeah, if you could. Drop whatever one on there. We're going to read Psalms 83rd chapter in English. In the Hebrew. Psalms 83. Alahayu. Aldama Yalaka. Al Thakarash. Wa Al Thashakwat. Al Kayana. Awa Yabika. Yahamaya 1. Ra'ash. Al Amaka. Yara Yamwa. Sawada. Wayatha. Yaitazawa. Al Tazapawanyaka. Amarwa. Lakawa. Wanakakidam. Magalia. Wala'a. Yazakar. Sham Yasha'ala. Iwada. Kaya. Nawa Aitazawa. Laba. Yakadwa. Alyaka. Barya. Yakarathwa. Ahalya. Adawam. Wayashamai Aliyah. Mawa'aba. Wahagarya. Gabal. Waima 1. Waima Lot. Kalashad. I'm Yeshabya. Tazawar. Gamashawar. Nalawa. Imam. Hayawa. Zarawai. Labanya Lawat. Salah. Ashalaham. Kamadian. Kasaya. Sara'a. Kayabian. Manakal. Twayashwan. Nashamagwa. Ba'ayan. Da'ara. Hayawa. Gaman. La'adama. Shayathamwa. Nada. Yamawa. Ka'ira. Wakaza'aba. Wakazabat. Wakazazal. Mana'ai. Kal. Nasaya. Kamwa. Ashar. Amarwa. Nairashah. Lanawa. Ath. Na'awath. Allahayam. Allahaya. Shayathamwa. Kagalgala. Kakwash. Napanya Raka. Ka'ash. Thaba'ira. Ya'ira. Wakalahaba. Talahat. Parayam. Khan. Tharadatma. Basa'iraka. Wabasa. Wapatka. Tabalam. Mala'ah. Panyaham. Kwalawan. Wayabakwashwa. Shamka. Yahawa. Yabashwa. Wayabahawa. Aya'ai. Wayakaparwa. Wayabadwa. Wayadaiwa. Kayatha. Shamka. Yahawa. Labadka. Al-Yawan. Al-Kal. Al-Rakazah. Psalms 83 in English. Keep not thou silence, O God.
Keep not thou silence, O God.
Hold not thy peace.
Hold not thy peace.
And be not still, O God.
And be not still, O God.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
Thine enemies make a tumult.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
And consulted against thy hidden ones.
And consulted against thy hidden ones.
They have said,
Come,
and let us cut them off from being a nation.
And let us cut them off from being a nation.
That the name of Yasha'Allah may be no more remembrance.
May be no more remembrance.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
They are confederate against thee.
They are confederate against thee.
The tabernacles of Edom.
The tabernacles of Edom.
And the Ishmaelites.
And the Ishmaelites.
Of Moab.
Of Moab.
And the Hagarenes.
And the Hagarenes.
Gabal. And Ammon. And Amalek. The Philistines. With the inhabitants of Tyre.
With the inhabitants of Tyre.
Assur also is joined with them.
Assur also is joined with them.
They have hope in the children of Lot.
They have hope in the children of Lot.
Salah.
Salah.
Do unto them as unto the Midianites.
Do unto them as unto the Midianites.
As to Sisera. As to Jabin. At the brook of Kasan.
At the brook of Kasan.
Which perished that endured. They became as dung for the earth.
They became as dung for the earth.
Make their nobles like a red.
Make their nobles like a red.
And like Ze'ev.
And like Ze'ev.
Yea. All their princes as Zabah.
All their princes as Zabah.
And as Zalmunna.
And as Zalmunna.
Who said, let us take to ourselves.
Let us take to ourselves.
The houses of Yahweh.
The houses of Yahweh.
In possession.
In possession.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Make them like a wheel.
Make them like a wheel.
As the stubble before the wind.
As the stubble before the wind.
As the fire burneth the wood.
As the fire burneth the wood.
And as the flame setteth the mountains on fire.
And as the flame setteth the mountains on fire.
So persecute them with thy tempest.
So persecute them with thy tempest.
And make them afraid with thy storm.
And make them afraid with thy storm.
Fill their faces with shame.
Fill their faces with shame.
That they may seek thy name.
That they may seek thy name.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh.
Let them be confounded and troubled forever.
Let them be confounded and troubled forever.
Yea.
Yea.
Let them be put to shame and perish.
Let them be put to shame and perish.
That men may know that thou.
That men may know that thou.
Whose name alone.
Whose name alone.
Is Yahweh.
Is Yahweh.
Are the most high over all the earth.
Are the most high over all the earth.
We're going to get the blessings in the Hebrew. Barakatah Yahweh.
Barakatah Yahweh.
Wa Yahweh Shai.
Wa Yahweh Shai.
Wa Ma'aka Allah.
Wa Ma'aka Allah.
Wa Allahayim.
Wa Allahayim.
Atazab Ya'ah.
Atazab Ya'ah.
Allah Wap Yahana.
Allah Wap Yahana.
Ha'ala Wapyum.
Ha'ala Wap.
Hasaranyum.
Hasaranyum.
Akwatazayanyum.
Akwatazayanyum.
Makaya Yoyum.
Makaya Yoyum.
Waha Gwatin.
Waha Gwatin.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai.
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai.
The Wad Aman.
The Wad Aman.
The blessings in the English. Bless you, Yahweh.
Bless you, Yahweh.
And Yahweh Shai.
And Yahweh Shai.
And Michael.
And Michael.
And the angels.
And the angels.
Commanding General Yohana.
Commanding General Yohana.
The generals.
The generals.
The captains.
The captains.
The officers.
The officers.
The troopers.
The troopers.
And the sisters.
And the sisters.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
In the name of Yahweh Shai.
In the name of Yahweh Shai.
Thank you. So be it.
Thank you. So be it.
Sorry, while you're shopping, we can be seated. All right. So, we're going to, of course, read in the Hebrew first. We're going to be in the book of Ecclesiastes, all right? We're going to be in the book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to read verses 3 through 9. So, Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, and verses 3 through 9. Now, we'll read those in the Hebrew. What we're going to find out is that it was common knowledge about what happened when you died in times past, at least in the Hebraic culture, right? In our culture, we always knew because we were the only culture that actually had the Most High, the true and living God, with us. We knew exactly what happened when we died. We knew it, all right? And what you're going to find is that the same way that we die is the same way that life exists in any other way, right? You're going to find that the trees function the same way, even the wind moving to and fro, even the sun rising and falling every day. You're going to find that there's a common pattern, and humans are no different, right? So that's what we're going to do. But let's get first, we're going to read Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, and verses 3 through 9, beginning with verse 3. All right, we'll read that in the Hebrew, then we'll read it in the English. All right, so beginning with verse 3, Maha, Yathar 1, La Adam, Bakal, Imalwa, Imal, Thakath, Hashamash, verse 4, Dawar, Halak, Wadawar Ah, that's like a Ba'a, Wa Arataza, it's like a Waha Arataza, La'ai Imadath, verse 5, Wazarak, Hashamash, Waba, Hashamash, Wa'al, Makwama, Shawa'a, it's like it, Zawarak, Hawa'a, Shum, verse 6, Hawalak, Ath, that's like an Al, Darwam, Wasawaba, Al, Tazapawan, Sawaba, Sabah, Hawalak, Harawak, Wa'al, Sabayawath, Yawa, Shabah, Harawak, verse 7, Kal, Hanakalyum, it's like a Halakyum, Al, Hayum, Wahayum, Ayanwa, Mala'a, Al, Makuwam, Shahanakal, Yum, Halakyum, Shum, Hum, Shavayum, Lalakath, verse 8, Kal, Hadabaryum, Yagayum, La'a, Yawakal, Ayash, Ladabar, La'a, Thashabai, Ayun, Larawath, Wala'a, it's like it, Thamala, Azan, Mashamai, verse 9, Maha, Shaya, Hawa, Shaya, Wama, Shana Aisha, Hawa, Shaya Aisha, Wa'ayun, Kal, Kadash, Thakath, Hashamash. believe that's it, right? Yeah, that's it. So that was verses 3 through 9 in the Hebrew. Now we're going to read that in the English. All right. So if you could for me, read for me Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, and we're going to begin in verse 3.
It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
What profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun?
So now this is an excellent question. That's why I wanted to start right here. All right. What's the profit that you get for putting in the work that you put in right now? Let's just say that you're a brother in the school and you're a brother that's putting in all of this work. And let's say that you die and Christ has not come back yet. Right. What is the profit that you receive? Especially at this time, this is 2,500 years ago. When this was written, this is about 2,500 years ago. And this is a good question to ask because Christ didn't even come the first time yet. You understand? So the question being asked is a good question. What is the profit that you receive? Because I'm going to die and Christ hasn't even appeared for the first time yet. Right? So this is the question that we got to ask, right? Go ahead. And then he's going to answer that question. Go ahead.
Verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
One generation passeth away,
Mm-hmm.
and another generation cometh,
Uh-huh.
but the earth abideth forever.
So why am I saying that that's the answer to the question? Because the profit that you get for the labor that you've put in here, if you don't receive that profit before you die, you will return and you will receive that profit in another generation. Because yes, your generation, you might pass, but you through your children and through your tribe, you will continue to reproduce, and these spirits we're going to find out recycle. You're going to find out that the way that you receive the benefits of what you've sowed here is when you regenerate, right? Let's keep going.
Verse 5. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down,
Mm-hmm.
and hasteth to his place where he arose.
And that's why this is important, because what the author of Ecclesiastes is doing right now is he's making a comparison for you to be able to understand how your life works, right? Because it says the sun arise, so every morning the sun comes up, right? And then it also says, and the sun goes down. You see that, right? It's rise in the east and it sets in the west. We know that, right? But then it says what? It says, and hasteth to his place where he arose. That sun makes a continual cycle around this earth, continually, every single day without fail. It hasn't failed since the creation of the entire universe. It's always been like that. Well, that's you. Once your spirit was created by the Most High, yes, you just like the sun, you're going to be born, meaning you're going to rise every morning. And then at the end of that span, what happens? The sun falls. That's to be compared to your death. You rise in the morning like the sun, meaning that's your birth, and then when you fall or die, that's just like the sun setting. But then it hastened back to the place where it started, and that's exactly what your life is, right? Keep going.
Verse 6. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north.
Go ahead.
It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuit.
Exactly, according to his circuit. So now that's the way that the wind travels. The wind recycles. There is no new wind. The wind moves around. It pushes around this earth wherever it goes, to and fro. But the thing is, it always recycles. Right? Keep going.
Verse 7. All the rivers run into the sea,
Mm-hmm.
yet the sea is not full.
Yet the sea is not full. You see these streams that continuously they run into the sea, but the sea is not full. Why is that? Keep going.
Run unto the place from whence the rivers come,
Mm-hmm.
thither they return again.
You know why? Because if you know anything about the water cycle, and if you know anything about evaporation, yes, that and precipitation, right? Those two I'm pointing out specifically because that's what this is talking about, right? Those waters that flow into the sea, you see how fast them waters go into that sea, thousands of gallons a day. If that was just the end all be all, the sea would overflow, and I mean there would be no land. You understand? But that water continuously recycles because of evaporation. And that's the same way. Now, if you think about evaporation, right? Though that water evaporates up into the clouds, and then it comes right back down into that stream and it goes right back into the sea, comes right back up. That's the cycle of everything. If you think about it, and that's why this is such a heavy set of this is a heavy chapter, right? Because it gives you exactly what you need to know to understand life, period. Everything that's involved with life. Now, before we read the rest of that, well, you know what? Let's read the rest of that before we move on, right? So let's go on to verse 8.
Verse 8. All things are full of labor.
Mm-hmm.
Man cannot uttereth it.
Mm-hmm.
The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that hath been,
Yeah.
it
Go ahead.
is that which shall be.
So the thing that have been, it is that which shall be. That's why he just went on to mention all of the different things that recycle. That's why he went on to mention all of those things, because the thing that have been is that which shall be. Keep going.
And that which is done is that which shall be done.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no new thing under the sun.
And there's no new thing under the sun. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right? And so you can take this verse a lot of different ways, but if you read it in context, this is talking about life. That's what this is talking about, right? And I'm going to prove that in just a second, but I do want to read a couple more verses before we get the precept for that. Keep going.
Continue to verse 10, sir?
Yeah, verse 10.
Verse 10. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? There is, it hath been already a whole time which was before us.
And it have this always been around. Give me Ecclesiastes, the 6th chapter. All right. Now, there's a lot that we're going to have to go into in order to get a proper understanding about this, right? Because the concept of regeneration, because we've lived in America for so long, is absolutely, it seems spooky. Like it seems like something that the Buddhists came up with, when really we were the first ones to understand what happens when you die, right? And so now today you got so many people challenging us, saying that the concept of regeneration is not real. The truth is that when you die, you go to heaven, and all of these things. They'll pull up Lazarus and the rich man and all of those things, and they don't really understand the Bible. So when we talk about I'm going to show you that this class might be kind of long, because there's so many different points of reference in this Bible that talk about regeneration, or as some people call it, reincarnation, right? So give me Ecclesiastes, the 6th chapter, in verse 10.
Verse 10, sir?
Yeah.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 6, verse 10. That which hath been is named already.
So now it says that which hath been is named already. Now we just read in Ecclesiastes, the 1st chapter, and the 9th verse, it says the thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. We just read that, right? All right. So now read that again.
That which hath been is named already.
So the thing that had been, it's named already. Let's find out what that thing is. Go ahead.
And it is known.
And it is what?
Known.
It is known. At this time, it was already known that what?
That it is man.
That it is what?
Man.
It is man. That thing that constantly gets recycled, that is mankind. Every woman, man, child, whatever you can think of, it has been here before. This is not the first time that you've ever existed. You understand? This is not the first time that you've had a body. Like, here's what's crazy about the theory that any other theory besides the concept of regeneration. If the Lord has put a new spirit in every existing human being, there will never, ever, because we know the kingdom of heaven is going to be on earth. There will never, ever be enough room on this planet for all of the humans that have ever existed in roughly 8 to 12,000 years. There wouldn't be enough room on this earth, right? There are 8 billion people damn near on the face of this planet right now. Now, of course, there's plenty more room, but you got to think about the entire existence of humanity and all of the humans that have lived. Those humans that were back 6,000 years ago are the same humans that are alive now, but in a different body. And we're going to show you that, right? We're going to show you that the Lord, he will recirculate your spirit into a new body. And that's biblical, all right? But the point is, in times past, everybody knew this. This was known. That's why he said, the thing that is, he said what? The thing that is named already, it is known that it is man, right? Keep going.
Neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he.
Now, if you could, I need you to pull me a precept. I need you to pull me a precept in the Apocrypha, All right, give me the Apocrypha. Give me second Esdras. All right. So now that we got that in Ecclesiastes, we want to get an understanding of it and really know. Um, we need more than one witness, right? Because we see it right here, and for some people, this might be the first time that you've heard this, right? Um, but you don't want to just read one thing in the Bible and say, well, that's what it is. You want to try and see where you can precept this at. You want to see what backs this up, right? Now, if we tell it to you, it's true, right? But just because we want to make sure that you have the understanding, the proper understanding, we got to get the precepts to this, right? So let's get second Esdras. All right. Let's get second Esdras. Let's start at the 14th chapter. I don't know where my apocrypha is. Let's get the 14th chapter. 14th chapter and the 35th verse.
It's the book of Second Esdras, chapter 14, verse 33. And now are ye here, and your
14 verse 35, Sluggy.
35?
Yeah.
Verse 35. For after death shall the judgment come.
So now this is the process of death. This is the exact. If you really just want to stay in one verse and understand what happens when you die, then this is the verse to come to, right? Second Esdras 14 and 35 is the place to come to, because this is the process that takes place after you die, right? It says, for after death shall the judgment come. Go ahead.
When we shall live again.
So after death shall the judgment come. And then it says, when we shall live again. All right, keep going.
And then shall the names of the righteous be manifest.
Go ahead.
And the works of the ungodly shall be declared.
So now this is what we want to understand from this scripture. When you die, that's not the end all be all. If you've died, that means that you've lived a life of some sort. Some people die at 3 years old. Some babies die at 2 days old. Some babies die at birth. Some people live to be the ripe old age of 102 or whatever the hell. Regardless, when you die, you've lived that life. After you die, you will be judged for the things that you've done in that life, whether they be good or whether they be bad. And of course, it goes on to say, when we shall live again, meaning you will be judged in the life that you live after this death. You understand? When you get regenerated into this earth back again, you're going to pay the price for what you've done. So now, for instance, if you've been somebody that's been righteous and holy and you've done exactly what you're supposed to do, right, and you've kept your foot from evil, then you will be blessed with a righteous life. You will live the type of life that everybody wants to live. You understand? But if you've been a terrible piece of garbage, if you've been evil, right, and you haven't kept the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, you want to do what you want to do, live the life that you wanted to live instead of living for the Most High, then you will be judged accordingly. You understand? And we're going to get some examples. I wanted to start off with this so we can just set the foundation, but we're going to get some examples as to what that looks like. We're going to find out what it looks like to be judged. See, judgment, once again, it doesn't always happen in this specific lifetime. Just like this scripture says, sometimes you die and you get reborn again into a life that is absolutely terrible, right? It says, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared. When? When you shall live again. That's what it just said, right? So I wanted to bring that out. Let's go back to Ecclesiastes real quick, because I do want to get one more thing in there. One more thing in Ecclesiastes before we start getting into some other scriptures, right? I'm trying to move through these rather quickly. I ain't trying to rush through them, but I do want to kind of get through them because we got plenty to go over. All right. So let's get Ecclesiastes 3 and let me see, verse 16.
It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 16. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment.
He saw where the place of judgment?
Under the sun.
Under the sun is where judgment happens. Right? Now, this is what a lot of people think. A lot of people think that when you die, the Lord is going to judge you and you either go to heaven and live and dwell with the Most High and the angels, or you'll be judged to go to hell. Right? To hell and with this place with Satan with a pitchfork stabbing you in your ass and you're burning on fire. That's not at all what the Bible says. It's easy for that to be misconstrued because you don't understand the Bible. But that's not what happens when you die. What happens when you die is what we just read, right, in the book of Second Ezra, and then you live out your punishment here, right here in America for us. For us right now, we're living out our punishment. You understand? Deuteronomy 28 tells us that we would live. Remember, Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, that was Moses telling the children of Israel at that time what would happen to them if they didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Do you understand that they didn't go through them curses? Like the children of Israel that Moses was talking to at that time in Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, the fact that we would be separated from our children, we would go into slavery in America, right? And that our brother would have an evil eye towards us. Understand? And that and that we would be the lowest of all nations. That didn't happen to those Israelites. But Moses said it would happen to who? He said it would happen to you. He was talking to them. You know why? Because he was talking to us. We are those same Israelites that disobeyed the Most High thousands of years ago. You understand? And we're doing what? We're living out our punishment, our judgment for those things right now. That curse that's going to happen to Esau, you understand that in the book of Obadiah, right? The Most High prophesied that Esau was going to be destroyed. Esau is one person. That is one person. But his family, his lineage, is the one that's going to have to pay for it. Esau is dead and gone. That person is dead and gone. But because of the cycle of regeneration, he's still the same one that had violence against his brother Jacob. And that's why he continually has violence against his brother Jacob today. That's why we still getting murdered by them today. Getting put in jail by them today. You understand? Getting this crafty counsel plotted against us today, right? Because of them. It's the same person continually recycling with the same wicked spirit, right? Even if you go into it, you can go way back into the beginning, and you can go and you can look at the spirit that was put on Cain is the same spirit that our oppressor has today, because that spirit recycles, always recycles, right? Read that from the top again, please.
And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there.
Right. So you see both iniquity and righteousness here, right here on the earth, right? And this is the place that you get judged. You don't have to go to hell to get judged. Christ said it himself. You understand? The hell that you're going to experience for the things that you've done, you're going to experience right here on earth. And the blessing that you receive for the righteousness that you've done, you'll receive right here on earth, right? Let's get one more. Let's get Psalms, the 104th chapter. All right. Psalms 104. There's so many different examples of what happens when you die. It's kind of ridiculous that we don't know these things. It's kind of ridiculous that we take Christianity and look at us going to heaven and hell as a fact, but it's just not true, right? Get another example, 104 and 29.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 104, verse 29. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled. Thou takest away their breath, they die, and return to their dust.
So this is what happens when somebody dies. The Lord hides his face from you, meaning he no longer gives you the spirit of life anymore. You reading on, it says, thou takest away their breath. They die and return to their dust, meaning they die and they're no longer living. The spirit of life is not in them anymore. Keep going, verse 30.
Verse 30. Thou sendest forth thy spirit.
And then after that person dies, the Most High will send forth his spirit. Once again, that spirit, that breath of life. Go ahead.
They are created, and thou renewest the face of the earth.
Then they're created, and he renews the face of the earth. He regenerates that person back into the earth. Breath of life probably wasn't the best term to use, right? Because breath of life in the book of Genesis, it's a little bit different than just being alive, right? Breath of life means coming into the truth. So I wouldn't really use that term, Salakia, right? But he puts breath in their body. You understand? He makes them alive, and they repopulate the earth. They come back into the earth, or they renew us the face of the earth. The sister had a question, says, Salakia, sir, so is it safe to say, since this is hell on earth, that we have not died, but we have that we have not died, but we have all been judged? I'm not too sure what you mean, sis, when you say that we have not died. Okay, all of us have been here before. Every single person that you see existing today, we have lived on this planet before. All right, and we've made either good or bad choices. All right, and because we're the children of Israel, you can just automatically assume that we've made terrible choices because it's right here in the Bible. We're reading it. We read about all of the terrible choices that we've made. We read about the book of Lamentations and Jeremiah when he talks about all of the terrible things that we've done to deserve our punishment, right? And so when you think about all of the people that existed in during the time of the Bible that Jeremiah was talking about, think about yourself having been there and being the person that he's talking about that made all of the terrible choices, right? And so continually, now think about this. This is why we've consistently gone into captivity over and over and over again. The Babylonian captivity, Egyptian captivity, the Assyrian captivity, the American captivity, all of these things, right? The reason why we consistently do those things is because we must be punished over and over again because we just can't seem to get it right. You understand? We just can't, right? Most High in Christ is. Yeah, Most High in Christ. Um, but so that's the point, all right? And now you see why we're in this condition in America right now. You got to think, we were born in this condition. What the hell did we do to deserve this? Like, what did we do to deserve? What do we do to deserve growing up without a father because the oppressor has made it illegal for black mothers and black fathers to be together? I say illegal, like it's not against the law, but they've made it illegal. They have made it to where black mothers and black fathers just cannot be together. So they've broken up the black household. What did we do to deserve growing up like that? For some of our sisters and some of our brothers that have been molested as children, what the hell did you do to deserve that? Understand that from the time that you were born to that point in your life when those things happened, you didn't deserve that at all. But you have done something, we have done something. I'll put it like that. We have done something as a nation that has made it to where we can only understand punishment. We don't understand blessings. Like we don't understand what it means to live good because when we live good, we think that we don't have to serve the Most High anymore. And so in turn, because everything is good and great and we got money and we get to do whatever we want, we do whatever we want. You find that in the book of Kings, Chronicles, you find that all throughout the Bible. You find that whenever times are good for us, we think that we don't have to serve God anymore. When in actuality, that's when we should be like, damn, I'm going to have to make sure that I stay this way. I'm going to have to make sure so I don't ever lose this. But we're so damn stupid and hard-headed, we don't understand that. You understand? And then it doesn't only affect you or that person that does that, but it affects their children and the children's children and children's children's children. That generational curse thing is a true thing. That's a real thing. You understand? We just don't call it that. We don't call it generational curses. We call it the curses of Deuteronomy 28 because it's what happened. All right. But I just wanted to bring that out now. That's the last one that I want to bring out just to show what regeneration is. Now we're going to have to go and get some examples. All right. So let's get John the 9th chapter. Let's go into John the 9th chapter. A lot of us have seen this specific instance before, but we're going to get a good understanding of what it is. So John the 9th chapter, you can start at verse 1.
Start verse 1, sir?
Yeah.
It's the book of John, chapter 9, verse 1. And as Yahushua passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth.
So now Yahushua is going through the city and he sees a man that was blind from his birth. Meaning, this isn't a man that got blinded by some freak accident. This person was like Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder was born not being able to see. That's a terrible thing. Like, being able to see is a beautiful thing. You understand? And it's like it's a necessity. It's necessary for you to live your life, right? So now, he sees a man that's blind from the birth. Verse 2.
Verse 2. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?
Now, here is what is a perfect example of people before American society and Western culture, before I'm saying our people, before Western culture and Western society and American society, knowing what regeneration was, right? Knowing what happened when you died, and the fact that if you live a bad life and you feel like you've done nothing wrong, you keep the law, statutes, and commandments, but you still going under these perpetual curses, right? These brothers understood that, and these disciples of Christ always was asking Christ questions. Just like a good student does, a good student is always going to, the scriptures say, if you find a man of understanding, you wear the you wear the steps of his door. You understand? Continually asking this man questions, trying to gain wisdom from this person. But Christ at this time was the most wise person to ever live. Still is the wisest person to ever live. And these disciples had the uh, privilege of being able to ask this man questions whenever they want. They saw this man that was blind from the birth, and they asked him, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Meaning, why was he born with this punishment? Did he do something wrong, or did his parents do something wrong? Keep going.
Verse 3. Yahweh answered, Neither has this neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him.
Right. And so now this was a specific, this was a different situation, right? Because normally, if you see somebody going through a punishment, you know that either they themselves did it or their forefathers are the reason for what they're going through, right? If you go hold for me, Exodus the 20th chapter, right? This specific instance was the Most High setting the stage for Christ to prove who he was, so he could heal this man, right? That was the only reason that this man was born blind. But we're going to show you what was going through the disciples' mind. All right, give me Exodus the 20th chapter and the 5th verse. The 5th verse.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them.
So now this is the Most High, right? When after the exodus of the Israelites out of the land of Egypt, the Most High is now laying it flat for the Israelites. He's telling them, listen, don't bow yourself down to any idols, right? Keep going.
For I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers.
Visiting the iniquity of the fathers. Go ahead.
Upon the children.
Upon who?
The children.
Upon the children. Go ahead.
Unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. The Most High, understand this. The Most High is a just God. So why in the hell would he punish your great-great-grandchildren for what you did? Why would he do that? That I'm going to tell you like this, and the Christians might not like it. That wouldn't be a just God. You know the only way that this could be a just God is if it was you in that third and fourth generation. You understand? And now I want everybody to understand something, what I'm saying here, because we're going to get an example. Matter of fact, we got to get the example. Give me Matthew 22. I'm going to show y'all what I mean by that, right? Because a just God wouldn't punish your children for the thing that you did. What the hell did your great-grandson and great-granddaughter do to deserve the thing that you should have got the punishment for? We're going to find out what that means. All right? We're going to find out why that is and what it means. All right? Give me Matthew the 22nd chapter, and then let's read.
27th chapter?
22nd.
22nd?
Yeah, Matthew 22 and 23.
All right. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 22. Verse 1?
23.
20. Verse 20.
23, Salaki.
Verse 23.
Mm-hmm.
The same day came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection.
They say what?
That there is no resurrection.
The Sadducees had developed this doctrine that there is no resurrection, right? And if you're a Christian and you believe that when you die, you never come back again, you don't believe in the concept of regeneration or reincarnation, you're just like the Sadducees that question Christ, right? But keep going. And the 23.
And asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man died having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother.
And raise up what?
Seed unto his brother.
So now we're going to go into this law after we read this account, but there's a law in the scriptures that say that if a man dies and he's not brought forth children, he doesn't have any sons, then his brother must marry his wife to raise up seed unto that man, right? We'll read that law in just a second, but just understand that, right? Go ahead.
Um,
25.
Verse 25. Now there were with us 7 brethren, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue, left his wife unto his brother.
So now there's 7 brothers. This whole story is ridiculous. The Sadducees were really just trying to tempt Christ. They were trying to see if Christ was going to fold and say something against the law of Moses, right? Because the law of Moses has always, and I'm calling it the law of Moses. It's the law of the Most High. Just Moses just delivered it, right? But that law has always been around, and people were accusing Christ of going against that law, of saying that that law is no longer, just like Christians do today. But Christ never said the law was done away with, and they're testing him to see if he will uphold the law of Moses, right? And so now, one of the laws in the Bible is what I just said. If a man dies not having any children, his brother has to raise up seed, meaning has to marry his wife and raise up seed, meaning give children, right? Keep going.
Verse 26. Likewise, the second also, and the third unto the 7th.
So now, the brother died initially, and then he didn't have no kids. He didn't have no children. He wasn't able to raise up seed for himself. Then the second brother, he died before he could raise up seed for his brother. The third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, all the way on down to where there were no more men left to raise up seed for their brother, right? Go ahead.
Verse 27. And last of all, the woman died also.
And then the woman died. So now this man nor his brothers was able to raise up seed for him. I want everybody to understand something. When we break this law down, you'll understand that the only reason that seed must be raised up for this brother is so that way this brother can regenerate back into the earth. And I will go into that scripture, we'll go into that law, and we'll break that down, right? But the point is, here in this specific instance, the woman died and all of the men died, right? Keep going.
Verse 28. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7th?
So now they're asking him this question because they're trying to test him. They say in the resurrection, right? When she regenerates, whose wife is she going to be of the 7? Because where are those 7 men that never had children? Right? Keep going.
For all had her. Verse 29.
Mhm.
Yahweh answered and said unto them, Ye do err.
You do what?
Do err.
You do err. Go ahead.
Not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of God.
And that's the truth about everybody that doesn't understand the concept of regeneration. And it's not like a low blow. I'm not bashing nobody that doesn't understand the concept of regeneration, right? Because it's tough to be able to understand when America has taught you through the Catholic dogma and the Christian dogma that they push that you go to heaven when you die. You understand? It's tough to be able to understand these things because the Bible, the scriptures say that the Most High revealeth his secrets unto the prophets. So there are things about this Bible that are actually pretty hard to understand. And if you don't get them broken down to you by somebody that actually understands it, then you'll never be able to understand this Bible. You'll never understand what life is about. You'll never understand what happens when you die. You'll never understand any of those things because you just don't have that spirit yet. I'm not blaming anybody for that. The Lord puts his spirit on whoever he chooses to. It just didn't happen to be you. But now you get to have this knowledge because since 1969, One West has been bringing this thing out. We've been bringing out what the truth of this Bible is. The Lord bestowed his spirit back onto his prophets. And now we're able to show you what you haven't been able to see for the hundreds of years we've been in captivity. All right? But keep going.
Verse 30.
Mm-hmm.
For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven.
So now let's answer this question, right? It says, but they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. This is just talking about the fact that you're going to do when you regenerate into this earth again. You're going to do whatever the Most High sets you out to do. You're going to serve your punishment or you're going to serve your reward. The angels in heaven do what? They do exactly what the Most High tells them to do, regardless of their feelings, regardless of any of those things. And when you regenerate back into this earth, you're going to do exactly what the Most High put you in place to do, nothing more, nothing less. And so when you regenerate, it's not about whether or not you're going to find the woman that you were married to in your past life. It don't work like that. That's cartoon and that's fairy tales and spooky garbage, right? The scriptures say, I believe if we haven't read it already, we will. The scriptures say that there is no remembrance of former things. When you die, the person that you were is dead, right? Now your spirit will regenerate, but you won't have the memories of, like for instance, my name is Parak. When I die one day, I'm going to regenerate, and my father will name me something else. I won't be Parak anymore, and I won't have any of the memories that Parak has, but I'll still have the same spirit. You understand? And I'm gonna give y'all an example of that after we read this and get the law. I'm gonna give y'all an example, a clear-cut example of what I just said. All right. So now let's get. We'll keep going actually, if you could.
Verse 31. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read that which was spoken unto you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living.
He's not the God of the dead, but he's the God of what?
The living.
Of the living. That's God is not the God of you living your life and then dying and never coming back. He's not. Then he wouldn't be your God, because that means that one day God will be without you. God is the God of the living and not of the dead. God is he is in the business of creating life consistently and forever. And that's exactly what he's going to do forever. You're going to, even in the kingdom of heaven, when the kingdom of heaven is established, you're going to continually recycle. You're going to, and that's why in the beginning of the Sabbath service, you know what we said? We said, well, what the Bible said. The Bible said what? What profit doth a man have in all his labor? Somebody else saw it? What profit doth a man have of all his labor? In the kingdom of heaven, you're gonna labor and you're gonna build a foundation for your children and your children's children and your children's children. Like that's what's gonna happen. Like that generational wealth that the white men, they understand regeneration. Now, I'm not saying they necessarily understand the concept of regeneration, but they understand that if they work hard enough, their children won't have to work as hard. And then when their children work hard enough, their children won't have to work as hard. Until eventually, there'll be an empire that's built where their children can thrive. That is the concept of regeneration. That's the concept of what Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, was talking about. What is the profit that you receive for all of the labor that you put in? Think about working your entire life and not being able to pass it down to your children. You've worked your entire life for nothing, because one day you're going to die. And they say it all the time. I hate using worldly phrases, but you can't take it with you to the grave. You understand? You're going to die one day, and all of that money that you've made is going to go nowhere unless you pass that thing down to your children and your children do something with it. Right? Let's get the law, though. Let's get Exodus. All right, Salaki, let's get Deuteronomy. I think we need the 25th chapter. Give me 1 second. Yeah, 25 and 5. So Deuteronomy, the 25th chapter, the 5th verse.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, verse 5. If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without shall not marry without unto a stranger.
So now, if you have brothers, right? Now think about it like this, make it real simple, right? If brethren dwell together, meaning if it's you and you have a wife, but you also have a brother as well, right? If you die and you don't have any children, the wife of the dead, meaning the wife of the dead, shall not marry without unto a stranger. Meaning that wife that you had, she can't go out and marry another man, another Israelite man. This is the stranger is talking about another Israelite man. She can't go out and marry somebody else. Keep going.
Her husband's brother shall go in unto her.
Her what?
Her husband's brother shall go in unto her.
Go ahead.
And take her to him to wife. And perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her.
This is the duty of a husband's brother. Now, we're going to find out why this is so. All right, we're going to find out why. Just if you just keep reading, we'll understand it. Keep going.
Verse 6. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother.
In the what?
In the name of his brother.
So you're going to name that child that brother creates. You're going to name that child after the man that died, after the brother that died. Keep going.
Which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel.
That his name be not put out of Israel. So now why is that? Why is it? Now, brother, he has to go in unto your wife because you didn't make any children. Now that brother has to go and make these children for you. Now, what does that mean when it says that you have to name this man, this child, after that brother that died, that his name be not put out of Israel? Go ahead.
It's to keep the brother's spirit in the family of Israel.
Right. So why is he naming? Why are they going to name that child after the brother that died?
So that they can help.
It's simple.
So that he knows whose father is.
Nope. Because that is his father. That is him. That baby that gets created, but throughout this law of a brother, that is that man that died. And the reason why this has to happen is because of the first thing that you said, which is what? So that brother's spirit doesn't die off, because you regenerate through your family. That's how you regenerate. You regenerate through your family. So, for instance, right, I'll make this clear cut. So let's just say I have sons. I have sons. That spirit that I have, once I die, that son is going to create another son. And another, so that son will create another son. And that lineage will continue to go. That's why the Bible says what? You are who your father is, right? You base your lineage based off of your father, because that same spirit that was in your great grandfather in the third and fourth generation is the same spirit that you'll have. You understand? And so in this specific situation, this brother don't have no kids. So the law of the brother is used to preserve the spirit of that brother. Now, let's just say if you don't have any brothers either, because I know this question comes up a lot, right? Let's just say that if you don't have any brothers, you'll always still regenerate or recycle, but you'll just recycle through your tribe. You understand? Because even though you might not have any immediate brothers, let's say you're a Judite, right? Every Judite man is your brother. You understand? So you will regenerate through one of them. You'll come out and hopefully, and listen, and the Lord will put you in a good family. He'll do that for you. You understand? If you've deserved it, if you've earned it. So you'll still receive the same thing that we've read. It's not, the same thing that we've just read still exists. Meaning, we just read that you will be repaid for whatever you've done, righteousness or iniquity. So if you've done a good thing, you'll be raised in a good family. If you've been raised, if you've done a bad thing, you'll be raised in a terrible family. And you'll go with some of these, hey man, listen, some of these brothers and sisters is just terrible. You might be raised in one of them families. You understand? But that's the point. I just wanted to read that law real quick. Let's get what I say I wanted to go after this. You know what? I wanted to go somewhere else, but let's just get an example of what we just read. Let's get Genesis. Genesis, the 38th chapter. And let's see. Let's start at so we get. before you look at it. Okay, you right around the corner. Okay, so tell you what, bro. I'm teaching a class right now. Is this your number? Let's see. 574. Yeah, I got you. So let me give you a call. I got you. So let me give you a call in about 45 minutes after you call. I'll give you all the information. Right. Yeah, I got you, brother. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a call after I finish this class. All right. No problem. All right, Salaki. Read that for me. 38 and 6.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 38, verse 6. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar.
Mm-hmm.
And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him.
And so now it says, Judah's firstborn, he was wicked in the sight of the Most High, right? So the Most High killed him, which is what happens when you don't obey the Most High. You get killed, you get put to death. Keep going.
Verse 8. And Judah said unto Onan, Go in unto thy brother's wife and marry her.
So now, Judah said unto Onan, Go in unto thy brother's wife and marry her. Go ahead.
And raise up seed to thy brother.
And do what?
Raise up seed to thy brother.
So this brother didn't have any children. So now it was Onan's job to go in and raise up seed. And this is just a side note. This shows you that the law existed before Moses delivered it. Okay, Moses delivering the law doesn't mean that it was his law, because the law of a brother that we just read in Deuteronomy is the same law that this brother is following. Okay, so just understand that, right? But keep going.
Verse 9. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his.
And he knew what?
Knew that the seed should not be his.
He knew that him producing this seed, it wouldn't be his seed, because it would be his brother. Keep going.
And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother.
So now the difference is, with this brother, he was selfish, and he went and had sex with this woman, had sex, and understand the law of the brother. The law of the brother is not for this man to just go have sex with his dead brother's wife. That's not the law of the brother. That's not the point of it. The point of the law of the brother is to give seed unto that man, so that way you can raise his brother back up again, so his spirit doesn't die off. Understand? Right. But this brother was selfish. This is the spirit of Christianity and the spirit of selfishness. And this brother decided he was going to have sex with this woman. He was going to get off and all of that, but just not give seed to his brother. So he did what? He spilled it on the ground. Which, that's the spirit behind this scripture. This scripture is not telling you that that you can't pull out. You understand? Because I know it's a sensitive subject if you got kids, Salakia. You understand? But point being is, this scripture has been used by Jewish people and by some sects of Christianity that say that every time that you have sex with a woman, you have to complete the job, if y'all understand where I'm coming from. You understand? But that's not what this scripture is talking about. This scripture is just talking about the selfishness and the disobedience of the law that the Most High set in place, that you have to raise seed up to your brother. All right? So just as a side note, condoms, birth control, all of that is fine. You know, just everybody got to relax with that. Don't be righteous over much. All right? But I wanted to give y'all that example, because that was an example of that law of a brother being put into place. All right. So now let's get Matthew the 19th chapter. We're going to continue getting examples, right? Continue getting examples. So that way we can just kind of, because once again, it's almost like one thing that I've heard time and time again from the brothers in the school, right? From Captain Tazar Yag, from the generals. A lot of these things shouldn't need classes to be taught on them. Like, regeneration is something that you find in the Bible, and brothers and sisters, we've always known that was just what happened after you died. It's America that has put something else into our minds, where now we have to go and teach this. You understand? Like, the Gentile breakdown, like, that shouldn't be something that we have to teach, because in times past we knew the Gentile breakdown. We understood what a stranger was and what a stranger wasn't. We understood what the other nations were and what the other nations wasn't. The only reason we got to teach these classes now is because America has taught us something contrary to what the Bible says. So now we have to do what nobody else will do, which is reinforce the Bible. That's what we got to do now. And so that's the only reason why I got to get all of these precepts on what regeneration is, because we've been taught otherwise, right? So let's get Matthew 19 and 28.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 28.
Mm-hmm.
And Yahushua said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that which ye have followed me,
Said that ye which have followed me, go ahead.
that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory.
He said, in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory. Go ahead.
Ye also.
Who's he talking to? He said, ye also. Who is he talking to? Verse 27 says that Peter asked him a question. The disciples are asking him this question, but he said, ye also are going to do what?
Ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones.
Shall do what?
Sit upon 12 thrones.
Go ahead.
Judging the 12 tribes of Israel.
Now, when did Peter and the apostles ever sit on 12 thrones? When did they ever do that? And when did they ever have the authority to judge the 12 tribes of Israel? But why did Christ say, ye shall do these things? Because if you read the verse, it says, in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit on his throne, you are going to have 12 thrones and you're going to judge the 12 tribes of Israel. He's talking to them brothers because they will be the same brothers that will be in power. But these brothers died. Peter died. Like, his death is recorded. Like, he's dead. You understand? So the process of regeneration was known by everybody, including Christ, of course. Christ taught regeneration. That's why we just saw earlier how the Sadducees tried to come up against him and try to disprove the concept of regeneration because they had come up with a different doctrine. You understand? But Christ taught regeneration. And he taught that you brothers, because here's the thing. The disciples didn't receive their reward at all. Some of them brothers died gruesome deaths. I'm talking about some terrible deaths that none of us could even imagine going through, right? They didn't receive their reward then. Christ is reaffirming that they will receive their reward, though. Although this body may die, they will regenerate into a new body generation after generation until Christ returns, and they will be the ones that sit on those 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. That's the truth about what happens when you die. You want to know what happens when you die? It's right here. Christ just said it. Let's get another example. Give me Luke, the 1st chapter. Let's get Luke, the 1st chapter. We're going to start at verse 1. No, we're gonna not on verse 1. Let's see where we're going to start.
What verse, sir?
Let's start at verse 13.
Come. This is the book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 13. But the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zacharias, for thy prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John.
Call his name who?
John.
So this is about the birth of John, okay? And an angel came out. Here's what I want everybody to understand, even when it comes to like the Immaculate Conception of Christ, which people say, which is false, it's not true. But that concept of the Immaculate Conception, they try to utilize the fact that an angel came to Joseph and Mary, or came to Mary really, and spoke on the spirit that was going to come upon that child that she bore. The same thing happened with John, though. You understand? The same thing happened with John. Like, John's father was approached by an angel the same way that Mary was, the same way that Christ's mother was approached by an angel, right? And it said that thy prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John. It's like a damn near, it's almost a neck and neck comparison, right? John had the spirit of the Most High before he left the truth. Now, John did leave the truth because we know later on down the line, he gathered his own disciples. You understand? He still practiced water baptism when he even taught that water baptism was going to be gone. All of those things, right? But nonetheless, this is an instance or a story about the birth of John, all right? Now give me verse 17.
Verse 17. And he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elias.
Of what?
Elias.
Of who?
Elias.
This is, John is going to go before him in the spirit and power of Elias, which is who? Elijah in the Old Testament. Now we're going to read this. We'll get an understanding of it. Go ahead.
To turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just.
So now, this child, before he was even born, the angel spoke unto his parents and said, this man is going to go in the spirit and power of Elias, or of Elijah. Give me Matthew the 11th chapter. I want everybody to understand something. Matthew the 11th chapter. All right. And we're going to read verse 13.
Oh, so I can say from that.
Yeah, Matthew the 11th chapter and verse 13. Because now we have, this is the foundation. This is before John was even born, we just read. Before John was even born, what happened? The angel came unto his parents and said, this man is going to go in the spirit and power of Elijah. What did he mean by that? I think the person that we should go through to understand what he meant, what that angel meant, is Christ. Let's find out what Christ said. Matthew 11 and 13.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 13. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John.
Until who?
John.
This is talking about John. Now, at this point, this is when after John had left the truth. Because if you read the beginning of this chapter, Matthew the 11th chapter, John went to prison and he lost his faith in Christ. He lost his faith, which is what happens to every nut that claims they love God. As soon as some hardship befalls them, they can't handle, what it means to, they can't handle serving Christ anymore. Because serving Christ, it requires you to humble yourself. But, find yourself in jail, you're just going to blame God for everything. You're going to blame Christ for everything. Well, that's what happened with John. John went into the mindset of, if Christ was really the Messiah, then why the hell am I in jail? And he left the truth, had his own disciples, and his disciples came and questioned him. His disciples came and they questioned him, and or it's like John's disciples came and questioned Christ, just to be clear, right? And asked if he was the Messiah that was spoken of to come. And so now, of course, Christ goes into rebuking not only the disciples of John, but also John, right? And he said, for what?
For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John.
Right, all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. This is a mighty man. Keep going.
And if you will receive it.
And if you will receive it, if you can understand it and believe it and hear it, go ahead.
This is Elias, which was for to come.
This is who?
Elias, which was for to come.
Which was for to come. John was the reincarnation or the regeneration of Elijah. That's who John was, literally. And now there's a lot of people that try to say, well, that's not what Christ meant by that. And, all of these things, right? What we got to understand is, I didn't even have to break that down. Right. Like, that's just right there on the paper. It's just there. It just says it. It says, Christ said, this is Elijah. Now, should I believe your commentary or should I believe what Christ said? Because Christ said that this is Elijah.
Right.
I want to know who I should believe. Now, if you tell me I should believe you, then I know goddamn well I shouldn't. Right. If you tell me I should believe you over what Christ said, then I just know for sure that I should never, ever listen to anything you ever say ever again. If you tell me the sky is blue, I won't believe you. If you tell me to believe something other than what Christ says here. You understand? Because he said it himself. Now, what other interpretation of this could you have? I can't even think of one. You understand? But you know what they'll do sometimes is they'll go back to the scripture we just read in the book of Luke, in the first chapter. It says that he came in the spirit and power of Elijah. But see, that's what the angel told Zechariah, right? Which is the father of John. But what Christ told us is that this man is Elijah. So who are you going to believe? Christ was the king of interpreting everything. He could interpret any law. He interpreted like that law of adultery. He gave you the spirit behind that. That law of that law of eye for eye. He gave you the spirit behind that law. He gives you the spirit of everything. Well, he gave you the spirit of what that angel told Zacharias. The angel told Zacharias that he would come in the spirit and power of Elijah. Well, Christ is saying, no, this is Elijah. It's that simple, right? Is there more on that? Let me see. Keep going.
Verse 15.
Mm-hmm.
He that hath ears to hear, let him hear.
And that's the point of all of this. If you have ears to hear, just understand this. If you have the ability to understand what we're bringing out, just listen and take it all in. Take the notes and understand what this is. And honestly, there's no other explanation. There's no other explanation as to what happens when you die. This is the only explanation. My brother said, because of Christianity, people think the Bible is a Western book, which is wrong. But like most Eastern cultures believed in a concept of regeneration. Yeah, absolutely. Eastern cultures always believed in the concept of regeneration. Our God is who taught it to us. Like the God of the Bible, the Most High Yahweh, he's the one that taught us the concept of regeneration. This is something that we've known. And it's the only viable thing that could happen to you when you die. It's the only thing that makes sense. Because we know that God is the God of the living and not the God of the dead. So you can't just stay dead forever. Your spirit can't just die and you're just dead forever. You understand? So that can't be it. You can't go to heaven or hell. Why? Because the Most High said that the kingdom is going to be on earth. So that can't be the answer either. So if you just really just hone in on what's right here and leave out all of the spooky garbage, you'll realize that the only viable way for you to, for the only viable thing that happens when you die is regeneration. It's the only thing that makes sense. Nothing else makes sense. Good.
Like, if I could, sir, as you're breaking this down, it just, I kind of had an epiphany. Like, it just dawned on me, like, the Most High, once he finished his work and he saw that it was good, it's like the same as when he said, "Let there be light." Like, the Most High never said that's enough light. So they're continually more light, as in, like, he only made one. We know that the names are profane, but one Sunday. He only made one Monday. He only made one Wednesday. But we see him every damn week.
Yeah.
And every year, all year long. And it's amazing. Like, as you're breaking it down, it's starting to really, like, sink in. Like, everything is continual.
Yeah, everything is a cycle. You celebrate the Day of Atonement every year. You celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles every year. Every year. The Jubilee, the year of Jubilee. Every 7 years, you celebrate the year of Jubilee. It's something that's continual forever, and it's a perpetual thing. The covenant between us and the Most High is perpetual. All of it is perpetual. It's something that happens forever and ever, right? Just the same way, think about it, right? The same way that the trees grow and the seeds fall off of those trees and they implant themselves into that soil. That tree is going to die, but now there's a new tree coming up. It's the same thing that's always happened with everything forever. That goes back to the beginning of this service, which was Ecclesiastes, the first chapter. Everything is a cycle. So you mentioned the light side. The light is a continual cycle. That sun has not got no duller. It's a continual thing every day. It hastens it rises in the morning, and it sets it even, and it hastens back to the place where it rose, and it's going to keep doing it forever. It's always going to happen. You understand? And so my point is that it's really just the concept of regeneration is simple, but like the brother said, people take on a Western ideology, and Western ideology is more spooky. Like, people look at regeneration or reincarnation as spooky, but going to heaven and hell, that's really spooky. You understand? Like, that's a really spooky thing. Like, that's weird. And it's just not viable. It just can't work. You understand? This is the only thing that can work. And so that's why we have to go into the Bible and prove it to you, because you don't understand the culture of your forefathers. All right? Let's get Isaiah 14 and 21. Let's do that. We got to pull that out. Isaiah 14 and 21. We got to pull that out. Because this is part of.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 21. Prepare slaughter. for his children,
Mm-hmm.
for the iniquity of their fathers.
So prepare slaughter for his children for what?
The iniquity of their fathers.
For the iniquity of their fathers. The Most High. Now, this is a prophecy against our enemy, right?
Right.
In Isaiah the 14th chapter, it talks about the king of Babylon being basically put out of his position of power because he's done so many evil things unto the children of Israel. All right, that's the context of Isaiah 14. Now, we see the Most High saying this. He said, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. Let me ask you this. Why should our oppressors today be put to death for what our slave masters 300, 400 years ago have done to us? They're not the same people. The oppressors that are right now today, and they'll tell you this too. I understand my forefathers might have done this, but I'm not enslaving y'all. So why should they be put to death? Why should they be put to death for what the slave master did 200, 300 years ago? Well, that's because they are that same slave master, reincarnated, regenerated into the body that you see that pretends to love you. The body of every white person that you see right now today, that you see that pretend to love you and want to be your friend and all of these things, 200 years ago, the body that they were in, that spirit, that same spirit that they got that they hide very well, that was in the body of the slave master that raped your forefathers,
Right.
that raped your foremothers, whipped us and beat us until we were a piece of a man.
Right.
That's the same one that's right there at that corner store. The same one that's at that job that you work at. The same one that owns these multi-billion-dollar companies. The same one that is the homeless white man on the corner. That's the same one that was beating you halfway to death 300 years ago. I'm saying 300 years like it was a long time ago. You understand? Right. Slavery didn't end that long ago. And we still in this in this place slaves. You understand? But the people that claim, oh, I love black people, I got black friends, and all of that garbage, and especially the ones that advocate for black people. I know y'all know about that. The ones that advocate and march with the Black Lives Matter and all of these things, and donate money and all of that. And, they'd give you their last dollar, and some of them really would give a black person their last dollar. Just understand that the spirit that lives inside of them is the same spirit that was whipping us bloody 200 years ago. It's the same spirit. The thing is, they've just begun to be more and more witty, and society won't allow them. See, most people, I know, I study psychology. Most people will do what they can get away with. Understand this. White people today, they can't get away with whipping our backs and putting us into chattel slavery. They can't get away with that right now. You understand? Because it's not politically correct. It's not, society today wouldn't allow it. But you know what society today does allow? Society will allow you to be shot 60 times by the police. They'll allow that. They'll allow you to be found dead in some white person's house for unknown reasons because you decided to go and have a sleepover with them, which happens all the goddamn time. So instead of them doing what was totally normal back then, which is taking you and beating you to piss in front of everybody, raping you in front of everybody, feeding your babies to alligators, all of those things, instead of doing what was acceptable back then, now they got to do what's acceptable now, which is pretend to love you until they can find a way to bite you in the ass. Until they can find a way to do that. Until they can find a way to shoot you in your back. You understand? Every class I teach, it almost just always comes back to like the white man being the devil. I don't know. Just always kind of come back to that. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's just a spirit that's on me. You understand? Here's my point. My point in bringing that out is this. Everybody's spirit regenerates. And the reason why you see the same spirits that you see right now in the Bible is because it's the same person that you read about back then. Esau has this punishment coming to him because him and his children are him. You understand? It's the same people. We have the punishment that we're facing right now because the same people that Moses told to obey the law, statutes, and commandments, or else, we're living with that or else because they died and went into the land of Israel, and they're good. But now we have to suffer for it because we are them. You understand? And that's the concept of regeneration. It's really simple. There's a million more precepts that I have in here. If y'all could only see, if I could just scroll in front of y'all, you would see that there's a million more precepts for this. But for time's sake, because it's almost 12 o'clock, we're gonna have to close out. But I want everybody to have a good understanding of this concept of regeneration, and it should also give you a uh, sense of comfort. Well, some of you it should give a sense of comfort because if you've been around this entire class, you find that if you live your life well, you'll be reborn into another life, but another good life, right? But if you've lived your life terribly, you're going to end up with a crackhead for a mother that's going to sell you to some man for drugs, and you're going to get raped every day. Now, that's not something that I wish on anybody. Absolutely not. And that's not something that the Most High wishes on anybody. That's not something that the Most High ordains, loves, anything like that. But we have to understand that every action has a reaction. Your choices have consequences to them. And when you don't get to live out your consequences in this life, you're just going to live them out in the next. You understand? And honestly, this thing answers questions that so many people have as a child as to why certain children go through certain things. Kids getting killed, dying. You understand? Judgment is something that you just can't escape. Death can't even escape. You can't even escape judgment through death. That's heavy, ain't it? So, I mean, that's the point, man. That's the point. I did want to bring out one more thing. Let me see if I can pull it up quick. I meant to bring this out earlier. Shalom, look grateful. Nah, well, God. Yeah, like they got wings all over their body, eyes all over their wings. All right, no sweat. All right, so now I just wanted to show y'all something. This regeneration, right? The only time that you see the term regeneration being used is in the New Testament, and one of the scriptures that we just read, Matthew the 19th chapter, right? In 28th verse. We just read. I'll pull it up on the screen so y'all can see it. And that's what we'll close the class out with. So let me see, add it. Make sure y'all can see it. So this is what I want to focus on, everybody being able to see. What I have highlighted right there is the definition. Just so y'all know, this is it's that term. Excuse me, it's this term right here in the Greek. I don't know how to read Greek. I'm not even gonna hold y'all up. That term, right? Which is this is Strong's G3824. All right. And this is the term that Christ uses when he speaks about the disciples receiving their reward in the regeneration. All right. And that says the definition of that word that's used in the Greek is new birth, reproduction, renewal, recreation, or of course regeneration. That's exactly what regeneration is, right? You see that first part of that definition that says new birth? That's what this is talking about. That's life. And that's what Christ was teaching when he was on the earth. He taught regeneration. And I think the importance, I'm gonna close out, right? But I think the importance of regeneration is that the importance of regeneration is this. The way you live your life affects everything. Like what you do right now affects not only the future that you'll experience right now, but you can make it to where you're born, like I said earlier, to a mother that's addicted to crack, to a father that's in prison. You know how bad it could be? It could be so bad that after you die, you get born into another life like the same one that you've lived right now here today. The same one that you lived, that you would, all of the terrible things that you experienced as a child, you can live those things all over again. That's how afraid. Now, some of y'all may not have gone through some things. I understand that. If you haven't, just understand it can be a lot worse than what you've experienced. But a lot of us, because we're under these curses, we can go through and experience the same things or worse that we've experienced as a child. Now, a lot of us got childhood trauma. That's Black and Hispanic culture, to have childhood trauma. Now, you just ask yourself, do you want to experience those things again? Do you want to relive the terrible things that happened to you when you were a child? Do you want to relive those things? Or do you want to create for not only yourself, but your children? Understand? Do you want to create a better life? That's going to be a decision that you're going to have to make. And that's what this whole thing is about. And that's why Christ spent so much time talking about it. And the Bible spends so much time talking about it, is because you don't get a pass. Just death is not an escape. You understand? And for anybody that could ever, Lord forbid it, but for anybody that ever experiences thoughts of suicide, just remember that suicide is not an escape. It's not. Because you just pay for it when you come back. So anytime that thought comes up in your head, I wanted to make sure I brought that out too. Anytime that thought comes up in your head, just understand it's not the escape that you think it is. You know what you're going to have to do? You're just going to have to deal with the problem that you have at hand. That's the only thing that you can do. Otherwise, you're just going to be punished for it. But that's the point, right? That's the concept of regeneration. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close out, all right? All right. So with that, imagine which means to stand. When y'all put done, we're going to go ahead and close out with the prayers. All right, beginning with the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. Abinawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwaka, Kava'ah, Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Barataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Kayawam, Wasalakanawa, Kawatnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kawatinawa, Wala'a, Tawayanawa, Manasawan, Ball, Haushanawa, Mayan, Rakaya, Laka, Amalagwa, Wa'ala, Watapara, Laiwalamium, Aman. In English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. The Kak in the Hebrew, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ukashah, Athalan Awa Hakak, Hakak Rapa'ah, Kal Maka'ala, Kal Madawa, Hakak Latahar, Hamat Zarayim, Hakak Lakwayam, Hamathim, Hakak Arakawa, Hatama Allah, Lagar Shan, Bashem Yahushai, Waraman. In the English, Yahweh. In the name of Yahushai, please give us the power. The power to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. The power to cleanse the lepers. The power to raise the dead. The power against unclean spirits. To cast them out. In the name of Yahushai, thank you, so be it. All right, Psalms 121 in the Hebrew. Asha'ah,
Asha
Ayanyu,
Ayanyu.
Ahaharyu,
Ahahari.
Ma'ayan,
Mayan.
Yaba'ah,
Yaba.
Aizaryu,
Isari.
Aizarya,
Isari.
Ma'aim,
Ma'ai.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Aisha,
Aisha.
Shamayam,
Shemayam.
Waratazar,
Baratazar.
Ayathan,
Ayathan.
Lamawat,
Lawat.
Regalka,
Regalka.
Ayanawam,
Ayanawam.
Shamarka,
Shamar.
Hana,
Hana.
La'a,
La'a.
Yakaka,
Yagaka.
Yanawam, Yahweh, Yashamarka,
Yashamar.
Makal Rai,
Right.
Yashamar,
Yashamar.
Azmapashka, Yahweh, Yashamar,
Yashamar.
Tazaathka,
Tazaathka.
Wabah,
Wabah.
Wa'aka,
Waka.
Ma'aitha, Wa'ai, Awalam. In the English, Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills.
I will lift up mine eyes into the hills.
From whence cometh my help?
From whence cometh my help?
My help cometh from Yahweh,
My help cometh from Yahweh,
which made heaven and earth.
which made heaven and earth.
He will not suffer thy foot to be moved.
He will not suffer thy foot to be moved.
He that keepeth thee will not slumber.
He that keepeth thee will not slumber.
Behold,
Behold,
he that keepeth Yasha'Allah
he that keepeth Yasharah
shall neither slumber nor sleep.
shall neither slumber nor sleep.
Yahweh is thy keeper.
Yahweh is thy keeper.
Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand.
Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand.
The sun shall not smite thee by day,
The sun shall not smite thee by day,
nor the moon by night.
nor the moon by night.
Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil.
Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil.
He shall preserve thy soul.
He shall preserve thy soul.
Yahweh shall preserve thy going out
Yahweh shall preserve thy going out
and thy coming in,
and thy coming in
from this time forth
from this time forth
and even forevermore.
and even forevermore.
Psalms 83 in the Hebrew. Alahayu,
Alahai.
Adam Yalaka,
Adamiyalaka.
Alta Karash,
Al-Takarat.
Walta Shakwat,
Wal-Tashkwat.
All,
All.
Kaihana,
Kayana.
Awayabika,
Awayabi.
Yahamayawan,
Yamayawan.
Ra'ash,
Ra'ash.
Al-Amaka,
Al-Amaka.
Yarayamwa,
Yarayamwa.
Sawada,
Sawada.
Waitha,
Mayatha.
Yaitazawa,
Yaitazawa.
Altazapawanyika,
Al-Tazapawanyika.
Amarwa,
Amarwa.
Lakawa,
Lakawa.
Onakakidam,
Onakakidam.
Magalia,
Magalia.
Wala'a,
Wala'a.
Yazakar,
Yazakar.
Sham Yasha'Allah,
Shem Yasha'Allah.
Awada,
Awada.
Kaya,
Kaya.
Nawaitazawa,
Nawa Aitazawa.
Laba,
Laba.
Yakadwa,
Yakadwa.
Alyaka,
Alyaka.
Barya,
Barya.
Yakarathwa,
Yakarat.
Ahoya,
Ahoya.
Adawam,
Adawam.
Wayashama Aliyu,
Wayashma'alu.
Mawa'abu,
Mawa'abu.
Wagaryum,
Wagari.
Gabal,
Gabal.
Waimawan,
Waimawan.
Waimalak,
Waimalak.
Palashah,
Palashah.
Amishabi,
I'm Yeshua.
Tazawar,
Tazawar.
Gamashawar,
Gamashawar.
Nalawa,
Nalawa.
Imam,
Imam.
Hayawa,
Aywa.
Zawai,
Zarwai.
Labanya Lawat,
Labani Lawat.
Salah,
Salah.
Ashalaham,
Ashalaham.
Kamadyan,
Kamad.
Kasaya,
Kasaya.
Sara'ah,
Sarah.
Kayabyan,
Kayabi.
Wanakal,
Barakal.
Koyashwan,
Koyashwan.
Nashamadwa,
Nashamadwa.
Bayan,
Bayan.
Dara,
Dara.
Hayawa,
Aywa.
Daman,
Daman.
La'adama,
La'adam.
Shayathamwa,
Shayathamwa.
Nada,
Nada.
Yamawa,
Yanuwa.
Ka'irab,
Ka'irab.
Wakaza Abba,
Kaza'ab.
Wakaza Bak,
Kaza'bak.
Wakatazal,
Kaza'zal.
Mana'ai,
Mana'ai.
Kal,
Kal.
Nasai Kamwa,
Daisai Kamwa.
Ashar,
Ashar.
Amarwa,
Amarwa.
Narashah,
Narashah.
Lanawa,
Anawa.
Af,
Af.
Nawath,
Nawat.
Allahayim,
Alahaya.
Allahayim,
Alahaya.
Shayathamwa,
Shayathamwa.
Kagalgala,
Kagalgala.
Kakwash,
Kakwash.
Nafanya
Lepanyarakah.
Ka'ash,
Ka'ash.
Tabaira,
Tabaira.
Ya'ira,
Ya'ira.
Wakalahba,
Kalahaba.
Talahat,
Talahat.
Haryam,
Aryam.
Khan,
Khan.
Tharadapma,
Taradap.
Basa'irika,
Basa'irika.
Wabasa,
Sa.
Wapathka,
Wapath.
Tabahalam,
Wadabahalam.
Mala'ah,
Mala'ah.
Payaham,
Panyaham.
Kwalawan,
Kwalawan.
Wabakwashwa,
Wayabakwashwa.
Shamka,
Shamka.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Yabashwa,
Yabashwa.
Wabahawa,
Wayabahawa.
Aja'ai,
Aja'ai.
Wayakaparwa,
Wayaparwa.
Wayabadwa,
Wayabad.
Wadaiwa,
Wayadai.
Kayatha,
Kayatha.
Shamka,
Shamka.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Labadka,
Labad.
Ayawan,
Aywan.
Akal,
Akal.
Aratazah.
Arat.
In English, Psalms 83. Keep not thou silence, O God.
Keep not thou silence, O God.
Hold not thy peace,
Hold not thy peace.
and be not still, O God.
And be not still, O God.
For lo,
For lo,
thine enemies make a tumult,
thine enemies make a tumult.
and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people,
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
and consulted against thy hidden ones.
And consulted against thy hidden.
They have said,
They have said,
Come,
Come,
and let us cut them off from being a nation,
and let us cut them off from being a nation.
that the name of Yasha'Allah
That the name of Yasharah
may be no more in remembrance.
may be no more remembered.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
They are confederate against thee,
They are confederate against thee.
the tabernacles of Edom,
The tabernacles of Edom.
and the Ishmaelites,
And the Ishmaelites.
of Moab,
Of Moab.
and the
And
Agarenes,
the Hagarenes.
Gabal,
Gabal.
and Ammon,
And Ammon.
and Amalek,
And Amalek.
the Philistines,
The Philistines.
with the inhabitants of Tyre.
With the inhabitants of Tyre.
Assur also is joined with them.
Assur also is joined with them.
And it's like if they have hope in the children of Lot.
They have hope in the children of Lot.
Salah.
Salah.
Do unto them as unto the Midianites,
Do unto them as unto the Midianites.
as to Sisera,
As to Sisera.
as to Jabin,
As to Jabin.
at the brook of Kisan,
At the brook of Kisan.
which perished that endured.
Which perished and endured.
They became as dung for the earth.
They became as dung for the earth.
Make their nobles like a red.
Make their
and like Ze'el,
and like Zahab.
yea, all their princes as Abba,
All the princes as
and as Zalmunna,
and as Amunah,
who said, let us take to ourselves
let us take to ourselves
the houses of Yahweh
the houses of Yahweh
in possession.
in possession.
O my God,
Oh my God,
make them like a wheel,
make them like a wheel,
as the stubble before the wind,
as the stubble before the wind,
as the fire burneth the wood,
as the fire burneth the wood,
and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire.
and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire.
So persecute them with thy tempests,
So persecute them with thy tempest,
and make them afraid with thy storm.
and make them afraid with thy storm.
Fill their faces with shame,
Fill their faces with shame,
that they may seek thy name,
that they may seek thy name,
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh.
Let them be confounded in trouble forever.
Let them be confounded in trouble forever.
Yea,
Yea,
let them be put to shame and perish,
let them be put to shame and perish,
that men may know that thou,
that men may know that thou,
whose name alone
whose name alone
is Yahweh,
is Yahweh,
art the most high over all the earth.
art the most high over all the earth.
The blessings in the Hebrew. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
wa Yahweh Shai,
wa Yahweh Shai,
wa Ma'aka Allah,
wa Ma'aka Allah,
wa Allah Hayim,
Allah
wa
Hayy,
Tazab Ya'ah,
wa Tzab
Allah Wab Yahana,
Allah Wab Yohana,
Allah Wapium,
Allah Wab
Hasarenyum,
Hasarenyum,
Hakwata Zayenyum,
Hakwata Zayin,
Hakaya Yoyum,
Hakaya Yoyim,
wa Akwati,
wa Yahweh,
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 Hashem Yahweh Shai,
Hashem Yahweh,
the Wad Aman.
the Wad Aman.
Blessings in the English. Bless you, Yahweh,
Bless you, Yahweh,
and Yahweh Shai,
and Yahweh Shai,
and Michael,
and Michael,
and the angels,
the angels,
commanding General Yahana,
commanding General Yohana,
the generals,
general,
the captains,
captain,
the officers, the troopers,
troopers,
and the sisters.
and sisters.
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
in the name of Yahweh Shai,
in the name of Yahweh Shai,
thank you, so be it.
thank you, so be it.
Sorry while you're shopping, you be seated. Brother, you want to get anointed?
Come, come.
All right, you can step on up. All right, say these prayers. You're going to repeat your name 3 times. Yabaraka Yahweh, Waya Shamarka, Ya'ar Yahweh, Pan Yahweh, Al Yaka, Waya Kanka, Yasha Al Yahweh, Pan Yahweh, Al Yaka, Waya Shamlaka, Shalom, Yahweh, Ba Shem Yahweh Shai, Barak, Rapa, Magan, Hagan,
Kabadamat.
Kabadamat,
Kabadamat.
Kabadamat,
Kabadamat.
Kabadamat, Ba Shem Yahweh Shai, the Wadaman. All right, we just said in English is Yahweh bless thee and keep thee, Yahweh make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Yahweh, the name of Yahweh Shai, bless, heal, shield, protect. Kabadamat. Go ahead and salute out the Sabbath service. Individual Ahmad Shabbat, Ahmad Barak,
Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatah.
Yadi Matah, dismissed.